Greetings and salutations, storytellers. For our first lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a UI tour of Maya. So we're not really going to be looking at tools at all, more than where you might find them. So let's get going. All right, like any program, Maya has menus. Yay, menus. That seems familiar. And some of them are, right? I mean, we got file save and file quit, and we have things like edit, copy and paste, things like that. But the unique thing about Maya is that the menus are context sensitive. And what I mean by that is this. If I switch the mode that I'm working in, so let's say that we switch to animation, because after all, this is an animation class, you'll notice that the menus have changed. Watch, I'll do it again. Modeling, animation. So the menus change. So I think the thing to remember about that is that if you can't find a menu, check your mode. Okay, let's move down to this next area. This is called the status line. And the status line contains some things like, new and save and undo and redo. But it also contains some selection filters, like select by object type or select by component type. And then over here, we actually have some render commands as well. Moving down, we come to our shelves. Now, the shelves are, you can see there's a lot of them. You can click on these headings, and of course we are animation, so let's go to animation. But the shelves are a customizable tool where you can store commonly used tools. One of the things I'd like to show you as we look at this is that if I roll over a tool, we get a menu that pops up, or I'm sorry, not a menu, but a pop-up, and it says, oh, this is a parent constraint. Or if I go to this tool here, it's set key on animated. So these are these tools here, are there to help you to know what the tools are, because you see none of them are really labeled here. So that's helpful. Also, if you look at the feedback line here on the bottom, or the helpline, watch this. As I roll over the tools, you can see that it's giving you feedback there as well. So these are our shelves. To review, menus, status line, and shelves. Okay. What I will tell you about shelves is that we will be creating some custom shelves, because we're going to be creating our own custom workflow, to optimize our animation pipeline, and we'll store those on our own shelves. Okay, let's move over to the right side of the software here, where we have the channel box and layer editor. Now, the channel box is basically our way to get at any transform that's associated with a selected object. Oh, selected object. There we go. So you can see here that I've got translate X, Y, and Z and rotate X, Y, Z. Like, you can see it here. So each of these represents a channel on this object. So, let's say I wanted to scale this thing to twice the size. I could just type 2, and it's made my cube twice the size. There are a lot of other tools that are available here. If I right mouse click, yes. So we will be working with this tool a lot, and we will be doing that. We're just not going to go there yet. You'll also notice that there are shape and input nodes underneath. And if I click on the input node, I could change the amount of subdivisions, say. So let's say I make it 2. So what that's done is it hasn't actually changed the transforms of the object, but it changed the construction history of the object. In other words, the way that it was created. I went backwards and I changed the way that it was created. So that's kind of cool. The channel box. Underneath, we have the display and animation layer tool. Now, the display is very much like layers in Photoshop, where you could put objects on layers. I'll do that right now. And then you could show or hide those if you want. So this object is currently sitting on this layer, and if I don't want to see it, there we go. Display layers. Before we move on, I also want to talk about the attribute editor, which can also be pulled up by hitting Control A. So there you have it. Now, I'm not really going to go into a whole lot of depth where the attribute editor is concerned. And to be honest with you, I tear this tool off so that I can have it floating on a secondary screen all the time, because it's a very, very important tool. Each one of these represents a different node or a different bit of information that makes up what we see on screen. And so some people would call this the portal to Hades. Not us, though. We will go forth with bravery and learn how to use this tool in a way where we can control our renders and our objects with grace and with ease. Okay, back to the channel box. Let's carry on with our tour. Down here, we have the timeline. Now, the timeline has got a scrubbable timeline. You just grab the current time marker, or I can go over here and play my animation, or move forward by key or by step, or move from the front end to the back end of the animation. This tool is pretty self-explanatory, but let's actually just move to the next step, which is the range slider underneath of it, because it is fully customizable. So I could change how many keys we can see here. So let's say that I actually wanted to only show 48 keys. So there we are. But let's say I only wanted to show 24 of those keys. So there we have it. So I can take and scrub that, and I can expand my timeline. So we have the timeline and the range slider. Now, before we move on, we have a new tool here that we will probably be using. It's called the timeline bookmark menu, and you can see that it's new to Maya 2020. Now, what we could do with this is we can demarcate or create bookmarks on our timeline to say, hey, this is a keyframe, or this frame is incorrect, it needs to be moved. Or so it could be used editorially, or it could be used for animation planning, whatever you want to do. We also have our frame rate here of importance, our audio tools, which we won't be using until next term, auto key, same, and then this one here, which is kind of like an icon of a person running from a giant gear. But really what this is, it's probably the quickest access to Maya's preferences. You can go through menus if you like, but I typically just go down here to go and adjust my preferences, and we'll be learning more about that next week. Okay, carrying on. Underneath, we have our script line. So in our script line is actually called our command line, and what it does is it allows us to create and execute Mel or Python scripts, and then gives us feedback on it as well. If you actually want to get to the script editor, you can click on this button here and it will take you there. That scares me. Not much, but just a little. And underneath, finally, oh gosh, we have a giant Apple menu. There we go. We actually have underneath of that, the helpline. Ugh. Okay, there we go. The helpline. Just very slowly go there. Okay, there it is. The helpline. Now, the helpline gives feedback about what's happening in the software. Let's move away from there very carefully and go to the toolbox. Now, the toolbox has some of our transforms here. So if I want to move this object, I click on this tool and I can move it around my scene. If I want to rotate the object, I can do that as well. Or if I want to scale the object, I can scale it here. All right. It also has some bookmarks for the various view types. So single perspective, a foreview. These are just bookmarks. Now I got to be honest with you. This is a tool that I don't use because there are quicker ways to do it with hotkeys, and I'll be showing you more of that next week. But for now, we'll leave it there because it's part of the default setup of Maya. All right. Let's move up here to the viewport where we'll see a new set of menus. These menus are customized for the viewport and give us access to certain tools from within the viewport. Things like, frame selection, or if I want to change to a different renderer, or if I want to show nothing or only show polygons. So we have access to that here. But because people like shortcuts, the kind folks at Autodesk have also created some shortcuts for a few of the tools here in the panel toolbar. So again, we'll leave that there because it actually gives us pretty quick access to some of the things that we need, especially when we're setting up our scenes. Okay, I think that's about it. We've done a world record setting tour of Maya's UI, moving from the menu to the status line, to the shelves, to the channel box and layer editor, to the attribute editor, to the timeline and range slider, to our preferences, to the script editor, to our helpline, I'm not going there again, to our toolbox, and then to our viewport or panel menus and toolbar. What I recommend that you do is that you watch this video ad nauseum. What I mean by that is this, that you watch it until you know it. Until you know it so that you could tell me where everything is without even batting an eyelid. Because when we move into the next stage, which is the navigation of the UI, we don't want to be thinking about where things are. We want to start thinking about how to move them around. And that's our next video. And with that, I'll say peace. I'm out of here.